Hey guys, so I wanted to share with you a another story from the Zen tradition. This one is not in Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, that book that I shared a few stories from. This is just a story that I know about. And so something from the Zen tradition, and then also something from the Christian tradition. And I want to talk a little bit about these things. So today's subject is heaven and hell. And there's a few things I have to say about this, but let me share the story first. So once there was a samurai um, who asked Hakun. Hakun was a famous Zen teacher, Zen master. I want to know about heaven and hell. Do they really exist? Hakun looked at the soldier and asked, Who are you? I am a samurai, announced the proud warrior. Ha! exclaimed Hakun. What makes you think you can understand such insightful things? You are merely a callous, brutish soldier. Go away and do not waste my time with your foolish questions. And he waved his hand at the samurai to get him to go away. The enraged samurai could not take Hakuin's insults. He drew his sword, readied for the kill, when Hakuin calmly reported, This is hell. The soldier was taken aback, his face softened. Humbled by the wisdom of Hakun, he put away his sword and bowed before the Zen master. And this is heaven, Hakun stated, just as calmly. There's another similar Zen story that comes from the Zen tradition or from Japan. And this is about a samurai whose master was killed by an assassin, was murdered. And so samurai always had sort of a master. When they didn't, they were called a Ronin. So this particular samurai would be a Ronin. And they were very loyal to their master. So when his master was killed, he vowed to find the assassin, the person responsible, and to kill them. He hunted all over Japan, and eventually he found the individual responsible. Honestly, I'm not sure if it was the person who actually did the killing or if it was the person who, um, you know, put out the bounty on his head, the person who gave the command. Probably both. He probably went around and killed anyone responsible for this to avenge his master's death. Anyway, in this particular instance, he had this individual cornered in an alley. He had been hunting all over Japan for this individual, found him, and was about to strike him down with his sword. And this individual spit in his face, just, out of pure more emotion. He just, spit at the samurai. So the samurai looked at him, took his sword, put it back in the sheath, and he walked away. And the reason he did that is he had been angered. He had been made angry. And that would have turned this act, which was meant to be an honorable act, into a personal act of revenge. And that is not what the samurai was doing. He was trying to administer justice. He was not trying to, he wasn't angry. He wasn't angry at these individuals. He wasn't getting revenge. Okay, this was meant to be justice. And when he was made to feel emotional, he put his sword away. And so you can see here in this story, Heaven and Hell, when the samurai was made emotional, Hakun said, This is hell. When you are ruled by your negative emotions, when you are not clear. And then when he realized what had happened and he woke up in that moment, then Hakun said, "This is heaven." All right, so we can hear this from the Buddhist tradition, and we might think, well, that's nice and good for Buddhists, but I'm a Christian, and in Christianity, heaven and hell are real places that we go when we die. Well, I'll share with you something from the Christian tradition. I'm not saying that there aren't people who interpret it that way, and I'm not saying that there wouldn't be passages in the Bible that make it sound that way. But this is supposedly from Jesus Christ himself. Luke 17:21. Nor will people say, "Here it is," or "There it is," because the kingdom of God is in your midst, or the kingdom of God is within you. Really, it doesn't matter which translation you use from my perspective, they're both true. And this brings us to a very important point that we need to understand about spirituality. We can break all of spirituality into two basic camps: esoteric and exoteric. I'm not saying there isn't necessarily crossover or that people don't have them mixed up in their mind, but basically exoteric and esoteric. How do you know the difference? An exoteric religion, spirituality teacher is going to say that if you behave in a certain way, when you are dead, in the future, when you are dead, you will have all kinds of rewards. You will go to heaven, and maybe if you're bad, you're going to burn in hell, forever or whatever it is. Similar thing is found in Eastern traditions. If they don't talk directly about heaven and hell, which many of them do, then they are talking about good and bad karma, rebirths. Oh, well, if you want a good rebirth, then you better be a good little boy or girl, because if you are nasty, you're going to be born as a fox or an animal or an ant or something like that. Same idea. I don't care if it's rebirths or heaven and hell. It doesn't matter. It's the same idea. You behave now, because if you don't, you're going to have a bad outcome after this life. That's called exoteric religion, spirituality. It's very much future-oriented, and we can't prove if it's true or not, right? If we're really honest with ourselves, we can't prove it. Have we ever met someone who went to heaven and then came back, said, yeah, I was a good little boy or girl. I went to heaven. I came back. It's awesome. You should listen to them. It's in the books. There are preachers to tell us that this is the case. But we really can't prove one way or the other. Now, I want to contrast that with what we're going to call esoteric religion or spirituality. This is you experience it for yourself. You experience the truth of these spiritual statements for yourself. And this quote from Jesus is pointing to that. He's saying heaven is not for your future. He's saying it is within you, it is around you. Okay? If you can't see it, then you are in hell. So, this is a very important thing for us to understand. If the teachings are working, and that's a big if, okay, it takes a lot to have the teachings work. But if they are working, if we are working with the teacher and we are doing what they suggest, and again, working with the teacher very often is a lot more intimate than many people are comfortable with, then we want to be in heaven. We want to experience heaven in here, heaven up here, heaven out there. In this lifetime, not after we die. And this is true in Christianity too. If you look at the Christian saints, the Christian mystics, they talk about, again, now, here and now, knowing God, not after you die. This is not a popular interpretation in Christianity, but it's present in Christianity. Again, in esoteric Christianity, not exoteric. Exoteric is about rules, following rules. One day you're going to get the payoff. Okay, esoteric is if you do these things, and yes, there might be suggestions or rules, but if you do these things, you will get the payoff. If you don't do those things, you're not going to get the payoff. It's really quite simple. All right. So thank you all. I hope this clarified some things. If you ever hear me talk about esoteric and exoteric, again, heaven and hell are within us. They are states. They are things that we can experience here and today. Namaste.